Hello, darlings. I wanted to talk about my twin flame journey. Most people romanticize the concept of a twin flame like it's the most romantic, self-fulfilling, joyous occasion. However, what they fail to realize is that a twin flame is there to teach you a lesson or lessons, and usually very painfully. They are fast and furious, and yet almost always end in a heartbreak. So my guy, we'll call him Ghost. Ghost and I went to high school together. He was 2 years older than me. We had the hots for each other, but we never dated. We've kind of kept in contact through social media once that all came about. It's kind of odd. My ex-husband actually had a problem with he and I being friends. He didn't have a problem with me being friends with anyone else. He just picked out this particular guy and was like, and I'm like, okay, whatever, you know. That was a whole nother situation. I was used to being told what to do and not do based on his whims. I just found it odd that he had picked up on that there was some connection there that I hadn't picked up on. Post-divorce, I had checked in with him and he was overseas, living in London. And then come January of this year, I get a message on LinkedIn saying, hey, how are ya? I'm back in the States. And I'm like, no shit. And so we started talking. Within a week, I was on a plane to go see him. I fell hard. I fell fast. He felt like home. He made me feel like me before the narcissist ex-husband. He made me feel like me before all of those lessons of life that beat you down and take away that childish quality. I mean, it's funny. I had deleted all dating apps before I ever even left from that very first trip. I was in. I was like, let's do this. Totally. And I will add, I had asked my higher self, am I allowed to love this guy? Is this going to work out? Is he going to hurt me? The answer to that from my higher self was, love him. Go for it. No, you're going to be good. We talked on occasion, not much. He's kind of a quiet, shy, reserved kind of guy. So we texted more than anything. I came through first part of February. A friend of mine and I were on a road trip and we were driving home from Georgia and we went 4 hours out of our way to stop and see Ghost. Just an overnight. You know, we took off the next morning. After that, things kind of changed. I still have not put my finger on why, but I will admit that at that point, I went into full-on mom mode, nurturing mode, whatever. The guy had a horrible diet, horrible health problems, like fucking laundry list of health issues. I mean, we're talking about a 47-year-old guy with a fucking pacemaker. Really bad outlook, very negative, very pessimistic. He actually had a lot of reasons for that because he had a lot of fucking issues and a lot of things that were going on in his life. I came in and I was like, you know what? I get it. I had these bad health issues. I fixed it. I had this bad mental outlook on life. I fixed it. Here are the 2 books that I would recommend you start with. And then, of course, I was doing biofeedback at this point. So I'm like, here, let's do this. Let's see if we can't help your body fix itself, help your body repair itself. But I also feel like at that time, he saw me in a different light. He was actually going to drive to Kansas City with us. but he couldn't because he was waiting for something important to come in the mail. The following week, I was like, well, okay, I can come back next weekend. And we're talking about a 10.5-hour drive. So it's not like I could just like there and back in one day. So I'm like, sure, I'll come back the next week. And then he just, anyway, kept coming up with excuses as to why he couldn't come visit me in Kansas City. Then in March, my kid and I go to see my dad in Texas, and then we drive all the way across to go see Ghost. And then Ghost did finally come back to Kansas City with us. He was sick the entire time he was here. Didn't learn this until like 2 weeks ago. It was many things that contributed to it. But it was the fact that my house is so highly warded and high vibration. I've got crystals everywhere. Anyway, I won't go into all that. I have a very high vibe, very highly vibrationed space. So for somebody very low vibration to come into this space that wasn't used to it, it was very uncomfortable. He was forced to do some ascending, and again, not very comfortable. So he had migraines the entire time he was here. It was very disappointing because I wanted to be able to show him Kansas City. I wanted him to be able to meet all my friends, let my people who, had been concerned about me and my crazy fucking ways see that, you know what, I have a great fucking guy. But none of that happened because he was sick the whole time. I took him back just after the 1st of April, and it just went south from there. He would answer maybe 1 out of 5 texts. My history of abandonment and codependency, I just latched on even more, which made him pull back even more. 100% my doing when it came to all of that. I get that. I know it. I understand it. Whether he knows it or not, he played every one of my childhood traumas against me. I handed him everything he needed to know to be able to rip my heart out. I was very honest. As I was going through life and learning these lessons, I would share with him, oh my God, guess what I learned? Da, 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 da. And so Memorial Day weekend, we were supposed to go to Houston and then Sedona. He texts me 2 days before we are going, says, I got a job, I can't take the trip to Sedona now. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I was devastated. I hadn't seen him in 7 weeks. And then I am loaded up to go to Sedona by myself.
Did I mention how fucking excited about this I am? Just gonna fucking go. Just going. It's fucking exciting.
I got a download to go see him. It was like, go see Ghost. I'm like, okay, whatever. I sent him my Waze itinerary. And he calls me immediately, freaking out. What the fuck? You can't just drop this shit on me. And I'm like, well, I've got extra days since we're not going to Houston now, so I thought I'd come see you. I was told that you're not going to come back to Kansas City with me at the end of the trip. That was what he is. He had said, you go to Sedona, and instead of coming here and then to Sedona and then home, go to Sedona and then here, and then we'll go home and I'll go with you. Like, he was going to move to Kansas City so that we could be together. I got the download to go see him, and so I did. And it was awesome. It was a great overnight. It was just an overnight trip. And I took off the next day for Sedona. I did my thing. The communication from him was even lighter than it had been before, which was already pretty fucking sporadic. And come Sunday, when I am supposed to be leaving the next day to go to pick him up and get him to go back to Kansas City, he goes ghost. Actually, no, it was Saturday that he went ghost on me. But he went ghost. And so, of course, right, my abandonment issues come to the absolute forefront. He does not talk to me or respond to me for over a week. And then after that, it was, again, sporadic as all get out. And of course, me and my codependency, I'm pushing. I guess I should go back and say somewhere early spring, I was having visions of he and I. So I have visions when I meditate, or a lot of people call it downloads. And I could see he and I getting married in front of a waterfall. I even could see my dress. I could see what he was wearing. It was us. When he was ghosting me, I was all kinds of fucking confused and all kinds of doubting my visions. I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck? What the fuck? I saw a vision of this. I saw us getting married. Why in the fuck am I now dealing with this bullshit? I started to doubt my ability to clearly communicate with my spirit guides. He strung me along. He breadcrumbed me long enough for me to finally understand. While I loved him with every ounce of my being, I had to love myself more, because I was driving myself crazy, wanting and needing and desiring someone that had shut me out. And all the way through all of this, my higher self kept telling me, give him space, give him time, grant him the space that he needs to be able to work through this. He's got some growing to do. He's got things that he has to accomplish. And fuck, you know what? All the way back in February, I had gotten a download saying until he had raised his vibration enough, I would not get to keep him until he had done the work to be able to handle a real love. So I knew this was the case. I knew this was fact. I just had hoped that he was actually doing the work. He talked like he was. He acted like he was really working hard. Well, turns out that's not the case. Mid-July, I finally had enough. He hadn't responded to me in a couple of weeks. I sent him a long fucking email. So pretty much, this was all self-imposed, right? It was all in my fucking codependent need to not be abandoned once again in my life. I was pushing, I was forcing, I was trying and attempting to make something click, make something pull him towards me, and yet it never happened. So anyway, I sent the email, and it was fucking long. It took me like 2 days to write and rewrite and re-edit and everything. And I just said, look, I'm putting out a boundary here. My boundary is, if you want me to be a girlfriend, treat me like a girlfriend. Otherwise, have the decency to let me know that this is not where you are, that you are ready to move on. A week after I sent it, still nothing. So I texted him and I said, I guess you're making the choice to be free. He unchecked our relationship status on Facebook. That's how I was broken up with. Still have never heard, still have no idea what the fuck, what happened, what did I do? I mean, I make assumptions. I can only guess based on what I've seen of it, and that's from this side of it. Yeah, I was motherly, maternally, da-da-da-da. I wasn't like a total fucking bitch about anything. It wasn't like, take this fucking medicine. It was, Oh, you got a headache? Here, try some turmeric. It works. Fuck, whatever. Yeah, I got broken up with on Facebook. That was shortly before he and I were supposed to be going on a trip to Vegas together. Since I had the time off of work, I went to Sedona to stay with my girlfriend, and then she and I went for a weekend in Vegas. And then we did a, I don't know, basically a rave in the Coconino Forest in Sedona. So I party. You know, I was like running from dealing with the emotions. When I got home, I got home on Monday. On Friday, the migraines started. And I will tell you, I've given birth twice and I've never been in this much pain. It was excruciating. So it was a physical manifestation of the fact that I had not dealt with my emotional problems. I mean, it really, my body finally said, nope, you need to sit down and deal with this. And deal I did, because I had a hard time even moving from my bed to my sofa. I mean, that's how much pain I was in. I feel like I was feeling, or it was exacerbated by his migraines. Like, I feel like I was feeling his migraines. There was also some pretty crazy energy in the world. Like, the Schumann resonance was crazy high. That contributed. I know, I'm you know, it wasn't all one thing. I kind of had a perfect storm of bullshit that happened. I eventually got through it. I still had the hardest time being able to walk away from it. And this relationship lasted all of like 5 months, right? But it was that I had been in love with this guy for 30 fucking years. It was that I had visions of how powerful as a couple, once we had both tapped in and started to use our gifts, we were going to be. It was fucking phenomenal, the kind of things that I had seen of what he and I were going to be able to accomplish. So that's what I kept holding on to, going, why did I see this? Why did I see this if it was just yanked away from me? I did a session with my beloved Mariposa from Inner Journeys. I've done videos about them. Just because I was stuck. I was so fucking stuck. Through working with her, I realized that at that point in time, the future I saw was the future that was going to happen at that point in time. But he had work to do. He had to go in and do a bunch of emotional work, a bunch of clearing out of the blocks, the damage that had been done by his upbringing and choices and everything that had happened in his life. And he chose not to do that. Instead, he attracted someone on his own level, and he went that route instead. Getting that explanation of, yeah, you saw visions. Yes, they were real. Yes, they were true. Yes, that is what would have happened had he have done the work to go within and heal. But he didn't. He chose not to. That's what it is. So I got my heart ripped out. I'd say I'm over him, but I'm 90% of the way there. I learned some great lessons. He does a podcast, has a Discord for his group. I got some exposure to those things, both of which I'm gonna have a Discord. It's all spiritual people. Podcasts are in my future. My friend Tanya and I want to do a spiritual podcast. I learned that in my history with all of the narcissists, starting with my mom as number one, and then every boyfriend, my ex-husband, and everybody else, silence was used as a punishment in my life, in my history. I figured out that when he was being silent, when he was not texting and communicating with me, that's when my mind would go into overdrive of, oh fuck, what did I do? What did I do to piss him off this time? You know, because I had 45 years of that as my history. So therefore, part of how I taught him just exactly how to punish me the best. I learned a lot about my triggers. I learned a lot about self-love. It took a lot. It took a lot for me to love myself enough to say no more. No, thank you. This is not working for me. I learned that boundaries are okay. I mean, I had always heard boundaries, set boundaries, 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 boundaries. But this was the first time where it was like, you know what? I'm not giving you an ultimatum. I'm setting a boundary. Boundaries are healthy. This is what I'm telling you is required for this to happen. And if you don't want to accept that, then fine, we'll walk away. Learned a lot about my codependence, learned a lot about how and why I do what I do that way. I learned that I can't fix people. People have to be willing to do the work for themselves. People have to be willing to put in the effort and have the give a shit to want to go within and fix their childhood traumas, the blocked emotions behind their childhood traumas, I should say. And I learned a lot about my abandonment issues. My abandonment issues were something that have come up in pretty much every treatment that I did when I was at Inner Journeys. I never realized, first of all, that I was abandoned. It's not like somebody, dropped me in the fucking desert and took off. It was more like in my mind as a child, when my dad left because my mom was fucking psycho. Can't blame him. I was abandoned by my father. I learned it is a huge thing to a kid to be able to know that their people are always there. And when they're not, it takes a huge toll. So yeah, there you go. Ghost took all of my issues and just worked them against me. I still, to this day, have no fucking clue what went down, what happened, what went on in his head. I won't say why I wasn't good enough, because I was good enough. What I will say is why it didn't go together, why it didn't happen. And then I learned, that whole free will thing, where destiny is not necessarily written in stone. When you see a vision today, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come true, because people have free will. They can still make the decision, make the call to do or not do what needs to be done to fulfill that destiny. He has a whole hell of a lot of healing to do. And I had every intention of being there to help him through those. But he had other designs on that. Oh well. I'm single again, and I'm actually a lot better with it this time around, because I love me. I've learned to love me, and that's really weird to say. With my childhood, with my upbringing, it's a huge step in the right direction to love myself. Ghost, I wish you well. I really do. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but most of all, I hope you heal, because healing, while it's going to be something that we do for our entire existence, healing is such a necessary step in a happy life. So, twin flame, madly in love with a guy, then he rips my heart out, and I learned lessons. Y'all quit romanticizing the fucking twin flame journey, please. It's not romantic. It's not. No. Rip your heart out. Lessons. Growing opportunities. So, here you go. I've healed enough to be able to share the story. All right, love you.
Okay, pose. Sexy pose. Act like you like the bird. The bird has quite a nice beak back there. Look at that. Feel the size of that beak. Oh, yeah, that's a good beak.
Still going. Or maybe I should say going again. But we're hammocking.
Who's it to?
My people.
Might be. Hi, my people. Hey, Daryl.